since he was in high school. An incredible story that he gets his opportunities now. Now, there's also a story by Ross Dellinger from SI.com. College football's playoff expansion is in peril. If this all falls apart, we're going to get hammered publicly. Greg Sankey's quoted in this. The Western Athletic, I think it's the Mountain West Commissioner, Bob Bowlesby, a lot of different people involved, moving parts here as they try to figure this out, as they try to, after there's been, what was that great news that appeared in July, right, about the conference college football expansion, and then all of a sudden it like a thud because of Texas and Oklahoma. No, not because of Texas and Oklahoma, but due to the story involving Texas and Oklahoma and the SEC, and then all of a sudden it was like this grab whatever you can and, and run for your lives. And now they're trying to get back to the table again to discuss this.
I think there's a lot of posturing going on here. I really do believe that the 12-team playoff will be a reality. And, look, the SEC is for it. I think right now the problem is that
Greg Sankey said it's not them who's pushing this.
They're for it. I mean, that's posturing. I don't believe – look, Greg Sankey probably also, if you asked him 2 months ago, hey, do you want Texas and Oklahoma? No, we love the conference the way it is. We don't need them.
We don't need anybody.
We're fine. So I do think that there's a lot of posturing going on when it comes to all this. I think the other conferences, particularly the Big Ten, okay, we're going to do a 12-team playoff. All right, we're fine with that. Of course, the Big Ten's the one who fought the playoff for so long with Jim Delaney. I mean, they fought it tooth and nail. Jim Delaney did not want to see a playoff until he did. And then – so since they fought it for so long, obviously they're going to be slower to it. I think when all of a sudden you find out, like, okay, not only is the SEC part of this, Greg Sankey's part of this committee that came with this idea, he's now trying to hedge his bets to make sure he gets as many people as he can in this thing by putting Texas and Oklahoma in his league. So the rest of them have to go, wait a minute, let's see what's going on here and make sure that this is not just half the playoff 6 teams are from the SEC and the other half are however else they have to get in.
All right, here's a comment from Greg Sankey. I sent both of you guys this article. We will discuss the things that I'm reading about. In other words, other commissioners are allowed to have a voice too, by the way. Greg Sankey's a powerful man in college football, maybe the most powerful right now, other than maybe who makes the decisions on television contracts. I thought these things would be talked about in the room, but people have chosen to state their positions publicly. If everybody has to get everything on their Christmas list, we probably won't come to a decision. It won't be a happy Christmas morning. Well, Mr. Sankey, the reason why everybody started talking about this publicly because the rules changed with the new SEC that's coming down the line. So you're saying that whether it's Bowlesby or whoever else, Warren, Kliakoff, they're not allowed to have an opinion on this? And that's why it's part of, like Paul said, the posturing and maybe tapping the brakes a little bit. I think in the end it's going to end up there. But he basically was saying that we're fine with 4. It's worked out the way it's supposed to work out. There was a quote in here, but keep in mind, we can keep the 4 best teams. As I've said repeatedly, consistently, vocally, 4 has worked out just as it was intended. It is working, and it can continue to work. But there was this as well. We'll remind people this week at the meeting that a certain set of presidents on the college football playoff essentially demanded we introduce the format. We've done that. And he went on to say also as well that this was not just something that the SEC wanted. And again, it's all discussion. But it also sounds like to me that Greg Sankey's a little bit, maybe his panties are in the wad. And I'm not questioning his power or how good the SEC is, but I'm saying, so you're the only one. You guys were having these meetings too. And now no one else can say, wait just a minute because the things have changed with Texas and Oklahoma, and now college football's kind of in a little bit of a turmoil.
Yeah, and I'm sure Texas A&M leaking this, or we believe Texas A&M leaked this information because Texas and Oklahoma's plan was to wait for the CFP ink to be dry and be like, hey, guess what? We're leaving. And so that was the plan. But now that that cat's out of the bag, things have changed. I still don't think that ultimately it will change the fact that we're headed towards a 12-team playoff because college football needs to make more money. They need to grow, and they need to stay out ahead of what people are complaining about. And right now, that is, the fact that the playoff kind of Sucks.
One of the things here is one of the concerns is not Texas and Oklahoma leaving for whenever they do in the SEC. I think probably after the 2023 season. That's just me, and we'll have something on that in a second. I think it's because all of a sudden ESPN has their hands in the cookie jar, which they've had for a long time, and there's a concern about them monopolizing the college football playoff.
I mean, aren't you kind of cutting off your nose to spite your face, though, if you're these other conferences?
Yeah.
Because, like, you want a bigger playoff, but
do.
you don't want it just because the SEC has some say in this and you feel like they might be the ones pulling the strings. So that's the entire reason why you're basically voting against what's best for yourselves.
I think I think it's because they want to say, wait a minute, we probably all want this, but let's slow down a little bit. Let's read the fine print.
Yeah, no, I can understand that, but I mean, I think we're all heading in the same direction regardless, right? I mean, ultimately,
It's going to be there.
And a lot of this is like I'm seeing this stuff about academics, and I'm seeing stuff about, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, since when is that a grave concern about the playoff? Is when these kids are going to go to class.
It's a concern when you need to make it part of your argument.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm seeing all these different things of, like, oh, well, academics is, and I'm like, BS. The academic side of this is not why they won't expand the playoff. It's one of many things added up together, or, like, one data point of why there's some consternation. But, yeah, like Paul said, I mean, there's these long articles detailing all this, and basically what it is, they're posturing. Like, everybody's posturing. That's all it is. They all want the same thing ultimately, just maybe a different version of it, a little tweak here and there to you know, more customize exactly what they want. But for the most part, I think they all realize this is what needs to happen in the future for all of them to have a seat. So, yeah, I mean, just a little politicking going back and forth is what we're seeing here.
Yeah, it reminds me of, like, watching the Congress, you know, argue about the budget. Like, we know you're going to pass a budget.
Exactly.
Like, why? I mean, you're just doing this to piss us off at this point. So just get it out of your system and let's go.
Yeah, it's going to happen. We know it's going to happen. Everybody else knows it's going to happen. But I think it's also, well, wait just a minute. Let's try to see what we can do here. Also, I put this up on the premium board, and I can share it with you now.